Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tash Teaches. I'm Tash, and in today's video we're going to be building an absolutely bonkers gestural MIDI generator using Claude code. I'm going to give you a little demonstration of what it is that we're going to be building because I think you're going to absolutely lose your mind when you see how fucking cool this is. So without further ado, let me just dive right in and I'm going to show you exactly how this beast of a machine works. So I've got a bunch of controls here. Straight away, I know that I want to go a little bit slower. Maybe we'll bring the density down to begin. And also I want a pretty big octave jump range. Let's pick a nice key. I'm thinking we should go for maybe one of these Ethiopian scales. And maybe we'll transpose the whole thing up by 5 scale degrees to really get started. So how does this work? Well, watch. I'm literally just going to draw a little dot, a little line. Oh, very nice. Maybe increase the density a little bit. Let's add another note perhaps, maybe a little higher one. Maybe we want a little higher note up here. We'll just do a little dot. Maybe we'll go up here and we'll do a little love heart. We could bring the density up a little bit more, the bloom up a bit more. Just like the most magical melodies that I've ever heard. And of course, I don't have to keep these lines if they're there. I can erase them. I can also move lines. I could do this. And then I can transpose the whole thing in real time in a scale degree. And even better is I can actually record this as MIDI out into my software. So check this out. There we are. We are recording that MIDI in real time. And if I actually move this, you can see that the MIDI is actually moving relative. I can add some more lines. I mean, what the fuck? And what gets even better is you can now actually save this as a file, and you can refresh the page, and you can come back and load that file and carry on exactly where you were. So, how are we going to do this? Let's get building. I've made a nice little sine wave pluck sound here in Bitwig, and of course we could dive into just adding MIDI in and creating things in here, but what I want to do today is actually use Claude code to help us build something just delightful and whimsical that can trigger Bitwig for us and kind of play it like an external MIDI sequencer. And to do it in such a way that removes a lot of the maybe like pattern-based thinking that I have when I look at a piano roll, or even if I sit down in front of a piano. I tend to fall into the same pattern. So I want to build something that breaks me out of that mindset so that I can create in a slightly bit more intuitive way. So I'm going to load up my terminal of choice, which is Warp. I absolutely love this terminal. Super smart. I've got a bunch of really great quality of life features. And I'm going to dive in to my developer folder, into the music folder, and I want to create a new device or a new project here, and I'm going to call this gestural MIDI. Oh, thank you very much. Gestural MIDI generator. Fantastic. So let's jump inside of this folder. And I'm going to bring up Claude. I could do dangerously skip permissions, but that's such a nightmare. I actually just set up an alias, like a shortcut that means that if I type CDSP, it's going to load it up in dangerously skip permissions mode, which is Claude Code's equivalent of YOLO. So it's not going to ask me for permission to do anything. Now, before we get started, I just want to consider something here. I could, of course, just be like, yo, build me X, and I could just describe it like that. Or I tend to also use this wonderful app, Mac Whisper, here by this guy, Geordie Bruin. This allows for the OpenAI's Whisper model to run locally on my machine, so I can just transcribe things. So I can just press the Option key, and I can say, yo, build me X. And when I press it again, it's going to type it in. Yo, build me X. Okay, fair enough. That's not a good example of how effective this is. But I just want to consider the fact that I don't really know what I want yet. I need to kind of like, whoa, a giant branch just fell down on a tree outside. I need to kind of consider what it is that I want. And I'd like to do it in a sort of stream of consciousness, flowy way, so that I'm not being too rigid in my thinking and trying to get too clear up front. And so if I were to just say, build me this, it's going to be loose, but it's also going to be looseness that I'm then giving to the LLM, which isn't really ideal. I want to be able to talk loose and have my looseness formatted into something a little tighter. So that's why I built this custom slash command called prompt engineer. And what it's going to do is it's going to create a highly optimized XML structured prompt with intelligent depth selection. What does this mean? Well, if you go over to the Anthropic documentation, you can see that one of the sections here is on using XML tags, which is effectively using these little tags like, you know, opening and closing with these instructions and example tags. And this allows Claude, and quite a lot of LLMs work well with this, but Claude works particularly well with this. It allows you to basically tell Claude what each part of your prompt is. So instead of me just going on and saying a bunch of shit here, like build me this and make sure it does that and blah, 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 which is actually quite hard to keep track of. You know, even as a human, if somebody just sends you like a wall of text, it's not going to be as easy to implement as if you were giving instructions like very clearly and saying, this is what I want you to do. These are the constraints that you must abide by. This is the libraries and whatever that I want you to use. So instead of just jumping into telling Claude what it is that I want to build, I'm first going to get the prompt engineer to come up with the best way to ask Claude to do that. So I'm going to just load up Mac Whisper here so I can just say a bunch of shit. Let's go. Stream of consciousness. I want to build a web-based MIDI generator that can create notes or chord progressions or melodies and then output them via the IAC bus driver on my Mac so that I can trigger instruments in my DAW Bitwig Studio. I would like for you to build this in as elegant and simple and minimal way as possible, ideally just using vanilla JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. I would like for the ability to be able to quantize the notes that are generated into scales. And I'd like for you to be able to include a lot of world scales, aim for like at least 60 scales from around the world. So go from like pentatonic major and Dorian and all of the old classics, but also include things like the Ethiopian Tizita minor and Tizita major and maybe the Hungarian scale. Really include as many scales as possible. Okay, in order to actually generate these patterns, I would like to have some kind of gestural, delightful, wondrous experience where in my browser, instead of approaching it in the way that I'm used to of drawing things on a piano roll or even picking specific notes, I would like to have that kind of made a bit more abstract and happening behind the scenes so that I can either draw shapes or add dots or overall treat this as a more visual exercise in how I go about creating what will ultimately become a musical pattern. I want us to have an incredible amount of delicious humanization happening behind the scenes, basically making this into an MPE synth. So you want to use CC74, you want to use velocity and aftertouch. We want to have notes of different lengths. We want to have notes probability of whether or not they play. But overall, I really want to just have a system built where I can just come in and I can draw, maybe on a sort of like Microsoft Paint canvas, a bunch of shapes and have those shapes very intelligently through the back end of our system map to being a scale quantized melody or chord progression. How it should decide whether it's a melody or a chord progression is we should probably have a control that dictates how many notes can ever play at once. If we have it set to 1, it's obviously going to be a melody, but maybe we can increase up to, say, 6, which means that there could be 6 notes playing at the same time. Not always. It doesn't have to always play 6, but if we increase the probability that there could be 6 notes playing at the same time. And should also be kind of nice to be able to have a density control where we can scale down the amount of notes that are playing. It's basically decreasing the probability of globally all of the notes playing. And maybe also like a bloom control where on the left-hand side is it simplifies the amount of actual notes playing. So in a given scale, bringing it all the way down to 1 only plays the root note in octaves. Bringing it up then plays the root note and the fifth and some octaves. And then all the way at the top allows for every note in said scale. Okay, I'm just going to give it that. That's obviously an incredibly long and complex set of instructions, but I'm just going to chuck this in and you're going to see that it's going to take Claude a little moment. It might actually ask me some questions, and really what this is, it might be handy to actually show you. If we go to my Claude commands folder, we're going to open up the prompt engineer markdown file. You can see that what this is doing is inside of, actually, it's probably better to show this to you in Windsurf, just so that you can actually see what it looks like. So Windsurf prompt engineer. This is the prompt that it's running. So it's effectively passing through the argument being this whole bunch of shit that I just said. And then it's going through and it's adding in a bunch of thought processing. So does it need to think about, is the request clear enough? If not, do I need to ask any further questions? What tools would it need? Blah, 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 blah. Then it goes in and, thank you, Claude. It goes in and it gives it a bunch of other instructions. How did I come up with this prompt? Well, I actually just went onto the Anthropic website and I've read this website a bunch of times, but I took a bunch of things that I was constantly referencing and I put them inside of a project in Claude. So I have a Claude project called Claude Expert, and I've only included the things that I think are useful and interesting for the things that I want. So we've got a section here just directly copied. You just click copy page, directly copied from the website. So for example, it knows how to create custom slash commands because here are the instructions about how to pass through arguments. It knows about how to use chain of thought, so adding in thinking tags. It knows the best practices. It knows about that specific thing about XML tags. And so I believe what I just did was I said, please create a prompt. Here we go. Please create a prompt for Claude Code to create prompts with. Actually, no, this one is super meta. This is the prompt to tell the project how to use whatever it is I'm saying. Here, the prompt sub-engineering prompt. Oh God, wow, we're really fucking looping in words here. But this is how I created the prompt, get out of here, that we've then used to actually create sense out of just like the random shit that I'm talking here. So what's it done? It decided that it had enough context because it didn't ask me any questions. If I'd been more vague, it would have actually said like, okay, well, what kind of framework do you want to use? Are you interested in it being melodies or chords, whatever? But because I really was pretty clear about what it is that I want, even if it was in a kind of haphazard, all over the place way, it went and did it straight away. And it's written for us in this prompt. If we look inside of our folder, the only thing that we have in this folder now is, get out of here. The only thing that we have in this folder is a folder called prompts that it's created, and it's put 001 gestural MIDI generator. The reason why I set it up like this is because this means that if I have the patience, everything that I do can be prompted in consecutive order so that I can actually keep track of the things that I did. And that way we can, if we need to, review whether or not things were implemented in the correct way. So I can now run this and it's going to build it. And if I have any issues, I can then create a new prompt to fix those issues. And you can see here that this prompt that we're now going to be getting Claude Code to build with has core requirements. So it's talking about all of the different scales, using the web MIDI API, MPE style expression with note lengths, super nice. Controls, polyphony control, density control, shape to music mapping. Kind of cool here. Drawing speed, note duration. Wow. Okay, so I don't know how well this is going to work, but what we can now do is close this shit up. I'm going to just clear the context because we don't need it. We've now got that very clear prompt. And I'm going to say implement. And then we're just going to go in here, prompt 001. So I'm going to press enter. And this should take a couple of minutes maybe. And it's going to go through and create a little checklist of all of the things that it would need to do to actually consider this done. And I believe if we actually go in here, at the bottom, there should even be a section called success criteria. So this is nice. This is then going to be able to say, okay, well, we need the notes to be quantized to a selected scale. Musical output should feel expressive and human. In some ways, this is actually a bit weird because it can't go and detect that. I am a human being, and I also know what it is that I want to build. So we might need to do a little bit of back and forth to get that fully working. But let's just let this run, and we'll see what it comes up with. Just one-shot prompt. Okay, that took about 4 minutes, I would say, and Claude has now completed this first design. So I'm just going to press Command D. This is going to open up just a side terminal tab so that I can open up index.html. And let's have a look. So it's prompting up here to ask for access to the MIDI devices. I'm going to click Allow. And let's just go over to Bitwig and just make sure that the MIDI is going to be being received. I'm going to set this to just always on. And then let's just make sure that we're getting it from the IAC bus driver, which is what I'm going to be sending this out of. So let's just make sure that we are connected. Yep, we are. And let's see what happens if we just draw some lines. Ooh. Let's bring the polyphony down to just one voice. Now, this obviously seems like it is working, but it's only really drawing, or it's only really playing the notes when I draw, which isn't really what I want. So I'm actually just going to clear the canvas, and I'm going to go back now to Warp, and I'm going to add in our next prompt. So let's use the prompt engineer to say, I would like for Claude to fix the current app that we've built, because right now notes only play when you draw a line. So they play once and that's it. I was imagining this as being more of the fact that once the lines or the shapes or the doodles are down, they repeat in an interesting musical way. There should be some sort of repeating, maybe even prime number based phasing pattern going on, where the shapes that you build, the more lines and shapes and dots and drawings you have on the canvas, the more notes are playing. We also need to include, I believe, something that will allow us to increase the overall octave spread, because right now it seems as though we're only getting notes within a 1 octave range. The density and the bloom knobs right now aren't really doing anything because of the fact that we don't have repeated notes. Cool. So we've got all of those scales in there. Let's just say this. I think I've sent it something about me saying cool, so we've got all of. But yeah, so what I'm now doing is I want to refine what we've got, but instead of just telling it to fix it, I'm basically going to get it to go and have a look first at what that original prompt was. Then it might, if needed, go and actually look at the project in question so that it understands a little bit more context about it. But if not, it's going to then give us 002 and whatever the name is going to be. But that prompt is then going to allow us to go and ideally fix this so that we get a more working device. So let's give that a moment to run. Okay, we didn't even need to. It's already done. Let's go and have a look at what it suggested for this second prompt. So the current application triggers MIDI notes only once when drawing. Multiple shapes create layered polyrhythmic loops. Lovely. It's now going in and it's adding more depth to it. fixed control functionality, yada, yada, yada. It's talking about the specific file that needs to be adjusted. Obviously, we only have one index.html file here. It's interesting that it's decided to do it in such a monolithic way. But I'm just going to clear context again, and then let's say implement, what's going on? It won't let me delete. Implement, and then I'm just going to do 0, 0, 2. So let's see how long this takes to run. And hopefully we should then be able to have a slightly bit more interesting generative kind of emitter feel. It took about 4 minutes, and you can see that we have now implemented a repeating pattern engine. Very nice. Okay, let's try this out. I'm going to open up index.html. Looks much the same as it did before, except now we have an octave spread control here. Let's click allow, and let's try this out. So I actually want to increase the octave spread straight away. Let's pick a different scale. Let's go for Tazita minor. I'm a big fan of this guy. And let's just draw a line. Oh, okay, nice. So now we are getting a repeating note there. Let's do a little X here. That's kind of cool. Let's draw another line. Can we bring polyphony down? That's very, very cool. What about density? Does this work? Yeah, it does. Let's bring it up. Very cool. Let's have a look what the MIDI looks like in Bitwig. Wow, that's very interesting. I'd love to know the logic behind how that pattern is being created. Okay, nice. Let's go back and clear this for a second, because I'm curious about this bloom control. Maybe let's just try with a little love heart in the middle. Love that. Let's increase or decrease the bloom. Even with density up full. Is this only going to give us the root note? What happens if we go full? I love... Oh, that's one thing I did want to check, is what are the velocities looking like here? Okay, so we are getting interesting velocities if we actually increase the amount the velocity controls things. Really nice. Okay, let's draw a little shape up here. Let's underline it. Okay, I'm going to clear that. That sounds super cool. Let's just stop Bitwig from doing its little tail. I really like this, but I feel like we could maybe add in a few more really interesting features. So, once again, let's go back to Le Drawing Board. And I'm going to get the prompt engineer to give us access to a few more things. So what am I considering? One, please create a transpose fader that runs vertically along the right-hand side of the canvas. And that transpose fader will push all of the notes up and down by a scale degree so that it's quantized to the scale. The point of this is that it will be really musical and allow for us to, in some ways, kind of ride that fader to make this like a live performance. Please give it the ability to go up and down 14 scale degrees in either direction. So that's the equivalent of 2 octaves in either direction. It should be instant, and you should also then be able to double-click the fader to make it snap back to unity position at 0, which will just be playing the main melody as we know it, as it was before. Okay, so I'm just going to feed it that. Let's let it come up with this prompt. It shouldn't be too difficult. That's a pretty simple addition. What else might be kind of nice? Perhaps the ability to erase. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to undo that. And I'm going to go back because here is that prompt before it actually got sent out, because I also want to say, I also would like to be able to have an eraser that allows me to delete specific shapes. And then also a marquee tool that allows me to select shapes, and then a move tool which allows me to move said shapes. We'll just chuck that in there as well, because obviously we're going down that kind of like MS Paint vibe where we can draw things and then move them around. So let's see how the prompt fares with that. While that's coming up with the prompt, one of the things I'm also curious about is, did we include anywhere CC? So let's have a look here if there's anything about CC74. Okay, for brightness. Do we have anything for CC00 or 01? What about CC just in general? So we've got...
Done.
Let's see. Let's CC about this. I guess CC74 must be working. We've already got this done, so I'm just going to go ahead and clear this. And then I'm going to say, as before, implement 003 now. Because what I'm curious about is, do we have randomized... Let's add in some notes here. I suppose I need to unmute this. Let's bring the density down. Also, do we have different length notes? That's something that I suppose is an interesting thought. Yeah, that's really, really beautiful. But obviously, I'd love to have the actual timbre change. So CC74 might be really good for that. Let's see if this is actually set to something. So it doesn't seem as though it's actually changing too often. If I were to map this to something, it's actually got a fixed level, but that CC74 isn't jumping around. That's really, really heartbreakingly beautiful, though. And who would know that these lines would create such a beautiful pattern? Let's do... Yeah, because now it would be really nice to be able to, like, delete these shapes. Is this changing CC74 at all? No, it's not. I need to record this. This is so stunning. Bring bloom down. Maybe polyphony up? Can we get any chords? There we go, there's a nice little chord. That's really lovely. Okay, I'm going to clear that, because I do want to go back to Claude. You can see that it's actually implementing what we've said. So let's just let that finish, and then once that's done, I'm going to go back and I'm just going to add in the fact that we have a sort of sample and hold based approach for the CC74, because then that's going to give us the chance not just for different randomized velocities coming through, but also then different randomized CC74 values, which should, in theory, be really quite lovely. I'm curious, can we make this per voice? Because what could be very cool as well is to actually split this across a few different instruments so that we can have some notes triggering on, say, channel 1, triggering this instrument, and then we could maybe even have something at a half speed playing on channel 2, an octave down on another instrument. So I'm excited to see where that goes. Let's stop this for now, and we'll just let this finish. While that's happening, I just tried out one of my favorite raga, or sort of Indian scales, Yaman, which is, I think, Lydian. I don't understand necessarily how it varies from Lydian, but check this out. This is so beautiful. Such a nice combination of... Maybe bring the octave spread down to just 4. Density down a bit. That's really, really beautiful. Let's create a little macro here so that we can make some magic with this synth in real time. Oh, that was a kind of weird note there. Let's clear this. Really lovely. Let's go back to Claude, who has now completed our third iteration of this. One thing I actually forgot to do that would have been really handy, and I do recommend this, is to actually create a Git repo from the get-go, because now we've made all of these changes. It would have been nice to be able to actually keep track of those changes. But for now, let's just do initial commit. And we'll just hope that what it's done now hasn't fucked things up. But let's give it a go. So we can see here that it's now added a vertical transpose fader, a couple of other features. Hopefully the tools are going to work well. Let's open this up. I could actually just refresh the page, and in theory, there we go. Now we have a few more controls. What the fuck is this? The way that this is all like hidden underneath stuff. Let's try and fix this straight away, actually, because this is a really crucial thing that I would just be very irritated by this shit being covered up, because I can't actually now easily see the scale. So one thing I really like is using this this little, like, I use this for teaching a lot, and it lets me have like on-screen annotation. So I like to do a little line here, and I can literally just annotate the screen, and I can say the toolbar is covering up the scale drop down, and I can just move this. And I can then also do like a little rectangle. Let's change the color a little bit. I'll make it a sort of green. And I'll say, ensure proper layout and spacing. No overlaps. And I know this looks like absolutely ridiculous, but I'm now just going to do Command, Control, and Shift 4, which allows me to take a screenshot of the screen. I don't need to get that bit there. And then I can just go back to Warp and get rid of that shit. I'm just going to press Control V to paste in that image. And I'm then going to say, please fix the overlapping elements. And just to be super clear, I'm going to tell it the tools, the draw, erase, select, and move section are covering up, or the move button in particular is covering up the scale drop down. Please make sure that everything is correctly positioned. There we go. We'll just do that and chuck that in. While that's happening, let's just make sure that these things do work at all. So let's just connect to MIDI. Let's see, does it still create patterns? It does. Nice. Let's try a different scale. That doesn't sound like a major to me. We'll try, and also it's got rid of all of this shit. So one thing that can also be kind of nice is if it's doing something, is to then just in here, create just a little file called notes.md, and you can just add in for yourself things that need to be fixed. Reintroduce the headings of different scale categorize in the scale drop down. Felt like I was having a stroke there. I don't know if we did actually have that, or whether I'm hallucinating myself and we built that in something else. But I'm just going to put that there for now, because there's a couple of things I do just want to include. So let's just try and see if we can erase now. Okay, nice, we can erase. Let's see if we can select and move. Okay, well the select doesn't work well. It doesn't work well at all. And move. Okay, well move is absolutely fucked. Maybe if we refresh the page. Let's see. Okay, well now it's gone and done that. Okay, move works, which is good. Select is still fucked.
Done.
Let's add in a few more notes. Sounds very nice. Let's see if the transpose works. Let's put it on something like pentatonic so it's very easy to hear. I suppose what's really nice, let's see if the double click, oh, double click, really nice. It actually has an animation, it bounces back. Add a bit of bloom. And obviously what's really nice is if we're now recording MIDI, notice what happens when I play with this. It's actually then playing those notes in a really interesting way. Really, really lovely. So let's clear that because this is almost right. Let's see if the key commands work. Nice. D does, E works, and then move. So let's do a drawing. Can we move this? Super nice. So it does actually... What about more voices? Okay, really nice. We could play with that for hours, obviously, but I just need to make these last little changes. So I'm just going to go back in here and I'm going to say, please remove the marquee select parameter, the one that is pressed for S. We don't need that. I really like having the draw, erase, and the move, but we don't need that select thing. And also, please implement them with a little bit better spacing. As you can see in this image, they still slightly overlap. And I don't think it needs to take the entire length of that column. So, what would we even call this? Block too long. So yeah, let's just do another little screenshot here. And then I'm going to go back to Claude. And I'm going to say, get out of here. And then I'm going to say, please remove the select tool completely. It's not necessary. I like having draw, erase, and move. And please fix the overlapping buttons. They should have space between them, like the scale and the root note selectors have space between them, or like the polyphony and density selectors have space between them. You also don't need for the toolbar to take up the entire horizontal width of the window. Implement it in a slightly better place. I realized what happened was I didn't actually copy and paste the message in before we lost it. So let's just give it that, and hopefully this will be enough just to get that rocking and rolling so we can move back on to the next thing. Because I do want to add in here, ensure that CC74 is actually sending randomized values, kind of like a sample and hold, where every time a note triggers, it is sending a different CC74 value. Also implement, and I'm actually just going to go and research this here to make sure common CC values. Let's have a look. Let's see, or actually let's just put it this way. What are 3 CC values that are not mapped ever and are free to use? This is just because of the fact that some of them like will actually control something. So maybe 102, 103. So also implement, let's put this, CC 102, 103, and 104 to do the same thing. And I'll put randomized sample and hold. So the reason why I want to do this is because then inside of Bitwig, I could actually map, say, CC 101, CC 102, 103 to other things. So we could actually have some really, really delicious evolving patterns coming through here. So let's go back to Claude, just see how it's doing. It's removing those selector tools, which should be very nice, and hopefully we should be good to go. Okay, Claude says that it's removed the select tool, so let's go back and verify this with a little refresh. It doesn't seem as though it has. Oh wait, what's going on here? It doesn't seem as though it has actually done the thing that it said it would do. The select feature is still there. Maybe if we enable MIDI access. No, the select tool is still there. And the tools and the remaining tools still overlap. And then just for good measure, let's do a little screenshot here so that it can see what it is that I'm talking about. In the meantime, though, it might be quite a nice idea to go ahead and try and create our next prompt. So I'm gonna just open up a new tab and load up another instance of Claude in dangerously skip permissions mode, because I do like the idea of diving into some of these things. So let's just put add headings for different scale categories in the scale dropdown. Let's do ensure that CC74 is actually sending randomized values like a sample and hold, where every time a note triggers, it is sending a different CC74 value. Also implement CC102, 103, and 104 to do the same thing, randomize sample and hold. Let's go back, just have a little look if I refresh it. Okay, nice. So it's actually fixed the thing that I asked it to. The overall design is a bit stupid, but that doesn't really matter. Let's just test the functionality still works. Oh, that was nice. Let's pick a different scale. Let's do one of these Tizita Major. Bring bloom and density down. Polyphony down to a little more density. But it seems as though this actually does eventually cut things off, which is strange. Can we still move things? Yes, we can. Do the key commands work? Let's go back to something nicer. I really like the Tizita Minor more. Oh, okay, we actually went into a weird scale here. I wasn't looking for whatever dash is. I wanted to do something a little softer. Let's do major pentatonic again, and we'll just try this out to make sure that... It definitely seems like, you know, you can... There's a lot of space for you to create different types of melodies depending on how you draw in here. Because if you do... like wiggly lines. Oh, that's really lovely. Let's increase the bloom. Increase the octave spread. Maybe bring the polyphony up. Definitely doing really cool stuff with the velocity. And that's just really helping... Are we still recording? Yeah, that's really helping it have a lot of life, is these mad velocities here. Okay, thank you. Super nice. I love that. I do want to include some of these other features then. So let's leave the weird visual design as it is. I'm just going to copy and paste my notes here. And then I'm going to go over and I'm just going to say, let's actually be good about this. And we'll say remove, select, and fix UI, whatever, we'll say that. We could always fix more, but for now we just want to get going. So I'm going to say clear, and then we'll get our trusty friend, the prompt engineer, to do this. So... let's see how long that takes. Awesome, we've got our fourth prompt now, these scale categories and randomized CC. Let's go ahead and build that now. So implement, I'm just going to do @004. And I hope you can see just how amazing it is to have this little system set up so that I can just speak my mind or just put in a bunch of little notes and then have these like expertly written prompts for us just be created. And of course, it's all in here. We can actually go back and see transitionally what we've been doing. Really, I was a bit naughty asking it to fix those things just with random speech. I should have done that this way because then, of course, I can track each time. And one of the things that I really like as well is a lot of the time, if you do remember to initialize a Git repo in the beginning, is you just commit after each prompt is complete. That way you can always go back and you can see what work was done at what stage. And you can also see what your intention was for each stage, which is really helpful for also just giving Claude Code an understanding of what your overall goal is as you get later on into the project. So you can see that it's added some stuff. This is a really, really monolithic file. Might actually be kind of handy to refactor this into some separate scripts. We could put this into like a separate HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file. I'm going to go here because I'm going to let it finish that, and then we will split it. It will probably be a bit easier as we start to really, really hit into the 1,000+ lines of code in an individual file. It's going to get sufficiently worse at understanding what's going on, but it'll be pretty easy, obviously, to just extract the script section here into an index.javascript and the styles into the other. And I could actually just do that really easily here as well. We don't need to use Claude Code for that. I'm going to say
Done.
touch index.js and also styles.css. And that's now going to create these two files for us. And what's really nice is I can just actually highlight this. One of the reasons why I like Windsurf so much is because of how intelligent its autocomplete system is. And wow, this is pretty much all JavaScript right here. That's like 1,000 lines or something. It might even actually be a good idea to separate this further. Wow, that is just absolutely nuts. So let's highlight that. I'm just going to cut it, and then I'm going to go into index.js, and I'm going to paste this in here. And I don't think you actually need these script tags anymore. We could just get rid of that. And now what's nice is if I just press tab, you can see that it's going to actually automatically format this properly for us. So everything is now nicely formatted, and I can go back to index.html, and I can just, you can see there, it's automatically saying, oh, do you want to import index.js? And actually, let's just see what happens if I open this as is. Like now, nothing is going to happen. Like you can't do anything because there is no JavaScript. But I go down here, and I can undo, and I'll just do tab, and it will just automatically import that for me. Now all of a sudden, I refresh. Oh, why are you not being a good boy? If I refresh, now of course I can select auto and it works again, which is really nice. Now we've taken that 1,000 line or 1,500 line bit of code and we've split that. I'll do the same with the styles just because that will be easier for like just further compartmentalizing this at a later date. I'm going to cut that out there. Obviously now I need to do link style sheet from index.css. Just paste that in here. We don't need the style tags. And actually, if I go to the top and I just click here, it's probably going to suggest, there we go, that it automatically removes it. And then if I get rid of the style tags at the bottom, which it should automatically jump to, now I can just press save and it's automatically formatted it for me. Again, and this means I now have, how many lines is that? Like 109. This file is 296. And then this one is a pretty gargantuous, which we could further split if we want. But let's go back and have a look to see. We now have these new CC values, in theory, being sent through. So let's also check just to see that our file opens. Click allow. Oh, I guess we are not... Wait, are we in the right folder? Gestural MIDI generator. Yeah, I guess we didn't import the actual correct... there we go. It's not href, it's called styles. There we go. Let's just refresh, and there we go. Now it's actually imported properly. For some reason, Windsurf decided to call it index.css, which is a bit ridiculous. Okay, so what were we going to test? We were going to test the CC values. So let's just add in one kind of little note thing going on here. This is still recording, wow. Let's have a look on our instrument. Cool! Now we have Okay, this is what I was looking for, is I wanted to have this randomized CC74, because this means that we can now have different things being controlled by different CCs. I believe we also did CC 101. That's not working. 102 is. Maybe for 102, we'll make that the length, or like the pluckiness, this decay. And release, maybe? Maybe if we do per voice, it is still working, which is nice. And that means that it's actually going to carry over in a slightly nicer way. Let's add another note in. And of course, we can move this note. Really, really cool. And yeah, now we've got our nice headers here. That works too. Let's go back to Rag Yaman. I loved that. Oh, it's gone to Dash again. Bring that density down, bring that bloom down, and let's just make sure that CC 103 is also sending a bit more density and bloom. Okay, it seems as though it's only CC 103. Is this working? Yeah, so CC 103 is. That's probably enough. We could add in a few more. Ooh. Super cool. What does this knob do again? This increases these. What if we were to actually have a macro here that does exactly the same thing? So what is it? Noise. And what if we were to have then CC74 control the amount that this knob takes place? And I'm just going to take a random here. I'm going to make this very smooth and have this just kind of like wobble around on this knob here. Could be kind of nice also to bring a piano in while we're here. I'm going to take easy keys for this because there's a really nice felt piano sound I like to use. Go to felt piano. I'm also going to take a note length here. That's really nice. We can add a little humanize to further humanize that MIDI. If we wanted to, we could also shift it up an octave. Let's do note transpose. Could pan one to the left a bit, one to the right. Let's add our trusty RC20 to the master channel. It's very intense, that. Let's bring the magnitude down. Let's go back and see if we can just generate a different melody with this. Let's do, instead of Yaman, let's do maybe flamenco. That could be interesting. Let's do max polyphony 1, density up, bloom. We've got tempo control. I wonder if there's... That's disgusting. Okay, very nice. I'm wondering what else we could do, and here's like quite a fun thing that we could explore, is now that we've got all of this in theory working, let's just go in here and I'm going to say refactor into sub scripts, or whatever you would even call that. The final thing that I think would be really cool to do is to be able to create a sort of preset saving system where you can effectively save the settings on the screen with the drawings and all of the controls, because I think it would be really nice to save that and be able to come back to it. And maybe, I don't know if it's possible, but it would be cool if you could download a file and then you could upload that file again, and that has all of the information needed in it to save that pattern. So I'm just going to bring up our prompt engineer friend here. I want to implement a system that allows us to save the settings, effectively saving the exact drawing and the positions of the different knobs, density, bloom, octave spread, etc. And also then the scale and the root note. This will be important, and also the transpose on the side. But this will be important because then it allows a user to be able to jam out, create something that they really like, and come back to it at a later date. I'm open to suggestions about how you think it would be best to do this, but as far as my ignorant human brain is considering it, to keep it super lightweight and make it really nice so that users can just keep their files saved, it would be cool if maybe we could save a document that then downloads to their computer, either a JSON file or some sort of file that then users can load, and users can then load that file from their computer to the website, and it should then load up all of the settings. We need to ensure, though, that doing this, we do not break the functionality of the app right now, because it is working perfectly, and I absolutely love it. So let's just chuck that in. Cool. Claude says that we now have a preset saving system here. A lightweight save and load system. It does use a JSON file. Very nice. All controls. The proof, of course, will be in the pudding of whether or not this actually even works. Let's go ahead and try this out. Okay, nice. So let's give it a go. Can we save things? Bring density down, bloom up, pitch up.
Done.
Octave spread. Okay, can we save? Load. Okay, let's pause this. We'll go back and we'll say, I'm not going to clear the memory of it yet. The load button does actually open up the file browser on my computer, but the save button doesn't do anything. It's not downloading the preset. I would like to make this work so that I can actually save those JSON files and then upload them to restore parameter values. So hopefully this should just fix it in one. But I do absolutely love the kind of aesthetic that we've built of this. It's very minimal. Let's bring back the track. Try a different scale, maybe. Batty minor.
Done.
Awesome. The preset system is now 100% operational. You can see here that if I completely clear and then I load up a preset from before, it straight away starts playing with all of the preset parameters correct. So we're ready to actually ship this. How are we going to do this? Well, I'm just going to go back over to Windsurf and I'm going to say fix load functionality, and then we'll click commit. And then while we're at it, why don't we just also do actually, no, that's fine. That's fine as it is. I'm now just going to go here to publish branch, and let's call this gestural MIDI generator. I'm going to publish this, And this is then just going to publish this to my Git, which means that I can now go to a wonderful website called Vercel, which if we go here to add new, I'm going to do add new project. I'm going to go here, gestural MIDI generator, because this is connected to my Git repo, and click import. I'm not going to change anything at all. I'm just going to click deploy. And because this is a really pretty small project, this should deploy real quick, and we should then be able to actually access it on the internet, because I just want to make sure now that I can still use this, whether it's running for real, let's just close all this shit up, or whether or not, I'm running it localhost. It is now deployed, which means that I can test it on the real internet to see whether this works. You could right now go to this URL and it would work, and you could test this. Let's just make sure we are connected to MIDI, MIDI connected, and let's draw in a couple of little notes. Bigger octave spread. Bring the density and the bloom down a bit. One voice. Increase the octave spread. This is just marvelous. Well, folks, that's sadly all we have time for today, but I do hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and smash that notifications bell if you'd like to keep up to date with all of my future videos. Also, I'd love to hear from you guys. If any of you are out there building things with AI, having all sorts of amazing transcendental experiences with being able to take idea to workable, playable concept, please let me know what you're doing. I'd love to actually see some of the projects you guys are building, and also if you have any suggestions for things that you would like me to try and build in future videos, then please drop them in the comment down below. I'd love to connect with as many people on this cutting edge new frontier of coding as possible. So thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.